Beyond the headlines, the noise, the spin, we seek the stories that live within. Past party lines, past powers disguised, we hear the truth in everyday lives. A space for voices, both gentle and strong. Beyond politics, where we all belong.
Hi everyone, my name is Jin Qian and welcome to Beyond Politics on Ozark Media. Today I'm delighted to be joined by Councillor Elaina Anzellotti, Councillor of Georges River Council representing the Peakhurst ward. At the same time, Councillor Anzellotti has been announced as the candidate for Oatley for next year's New South Wales state election. And for those that don't know, the electorate of Oatley covers main suburbs like Hurstville, Hurstville Grove, Beverly Hills, Lugano, Narwee, Oatley, Penshurst, Riverwood and South Hurstville. Its current member is the member for Oatley, Mark Clr MP. Now, welcome Elaina.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Before anything else, let's get to know a little bit more about yourself first. You are a councillor, a mum, a teacher, and a lifelong resident of the St. George area. Now, how has that combination of experiences really shaped you into who you are today and motivated you to stand for public office?
Okay, so as a teacher, my life has been dedicated to service. So my area of expertise in the classroom, I have a management role where I look after student wellbeing. So at the moment this year, I look after the wellbeing of about 209 Year 7 students who've made that transition from primary school into high school.
Yeah.
And as a mother, I know just how important safe communities are for families and how families really do need good quality services in the area. So my life has just been about service and being a counsellor, advocating for local residents. It's just a transfer of skills really, that nurturing component and that advocacy for community. Just transfer what I do for council and hopefully to take that into state parliament as well.
Okay. An interesting question for you. What's something that people often tend to misunderstand about you up front?
Okay, I think people who have got to know me recently over the past 2 years as a counsellor really don't realise that I work full-time as a teacher. So I often have people who will contact me and say, can we come and meet you in your council office? No. My office is my classroom. And I think that that's something that people are a little bit they don't really understand that my role. I've been a teacher for 26 years. That's my full-time career. That's been my profession.
Wow.
I think there's a little bit of misunderstanding with that. Once you get elected to a public office, like local government, it's not a full-time job.
Yeah, and councillors have to put in a lot of effort out of hours to serve the community.
Yeah, so my work week is Monday to Friday, and then I do all of my council work of an evening and of a weekend. So it's busy.
Yeah. Okay. Now, speaking of community work, I also know you have an extensive track record doing community service and doing wonderful community work. Tell us about it.
Yeah, so again, what I do, it's about community, so it's advocating for my families. So my role is I work predominantly with students who have got wellbeing issues, behavioural issues. I advocate for them in the classroom. I work with teachers to develop strategies in order to make sure they get the best learning experience in the classroom. And I do the same in council, so it's advocating for residents who need better services and change locally. So, yeah.
Okay. And let's really delve into that a little bit more. Leveraging on your experience in our education system, in the community, doing various community and voluntary work, how do you think we should make our schools and make our community a better place to live?
Yeah, look, I'm a lifelong advocate for education, and education is where we see major transformation in community. So for me, working in a school, I've seen firsthand really the effect, what good government can do for education. So this government in particular, Min's Labor government, has been able to introduce radical educational reform, and I get to live that every day in the classroom and in the playground. So we've got record in a generation 260 schools being built with preschools attached. We've got teacher retention. We've had abolishment of our pay caps, which was promised by the Minns Labor government. No other government did that. Record-breaking announcements with our teacher wages. And that shows that this government values education. And I think when we've got happy teachers, we've got happy students, we get good educational outcomes.
And education changes a person's life and really provides inequality of opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, let's then move on and to look at your role in local government. One of your signature achievements has been the Peakhurst West Public School swimming pool. And my understanding is that very soon residents will have access to the swimming pool when it reopens following a multi-million-dollar upgrade. Well, to me, it's wonderful and fantastic news, but why are there fears in the community that the pool is being privatised?
Okay, the fears about the pool being privatised in community has come from the local member. So that it's been set, the record's been set straight. Prue Carr, our Minister for Education, on 7th of May of this year, had a meeting with the community users of that pool where she set the record straight. I was in her office and she said the pool is not going to be privatised. That was then released to the media and it was published, but the local members still ran with this fear campaign that the pool was going to be privatised. Labor government does not privatise community assets. Labor government is not in the business of doing that. The pool is in public hands, it will remain in public hands. It's getting a major upgrade. The fact of the matter is that the Liberal government allowed the pool to run into disrepair. This has been the first major upgrade in forever for this pool. So I did learn to swim there as a child. When I went back into that facility a year and a half ago, the place hadn't changed. So we're going to get this wonderful facility that community groups will still be able to use, but public will be able to come in and use that facility as well. So it's fantastic news for the community. It is not going to be privatised.
Right.
That record has been set straight. It's just really disappointing that that narrative is being run in the community to cause fear. It's just not true.
And I guess at the end of the day, regardless of every little detail in the contractual arrangement or in its exact operations, what the public cares about is whether they will have access to a affordable, accessible, renovated pool that is open to all. Will that happen?
Absolutely.
Okay, that's setting the record straight.
Absolutely. Yeah, let's just set that record straight. Yeah. It's going to be open to the public. Community groups can still use it. It's going to be a brand new facility for everybody to enjoy, which will not be privatised.
Moving on, one of your other signature achievements has been taking action on the DA backlog. Last year, it was reported that Georges River Council was one of the slowest councils to progress DA applications, but this year it's been reported that there has been a significant improvement. Now, how did you achieve that improvement? And also, when you take action to tackle the backlog, how do you also balance the community expectations around open space and parking, for example?
Yeah, okay. So one of the first issues that residents were contacting me over once I was elected were DAs. So I'm not talking about state development DAs, I'm talking about mums and dads who want swimming pools, who want to renovate backyards, who want pergolas. So a lot of my time in the first 8 months was sitting down with residents in their living rooms, having coffee and water with them, discussing the roadblocks that they were experiencing with council. One family in particular in Lugano had submitted DA after DA after DA to renovate their back area, where council had knocked them back, hadn't come out to do site inspections, were doing desktop surveys and making decisions based on that. This particular family had to resubmit DAs and it was costing them a fortune, up to $80,000 in resubmission fees. So I really took on that role to present a motion to council and say, look, this is not about major developments. This is about mums and dads wanting to build and renovate their homes to raise their families in. So from that motion, council have worked pretty hard to ensure that the DA applications run a lot smoother for residents. So that has been an achievement, and a lot of people have been incredibly grateful for that. But with development, obviously there's a balance that's involved. And Oatley does need new homes. We need to build more houses. We've got, a generational crisis at the moment where there's not enough housing and young families are being locked out of the market. But at the same time, we need to ensure that there's adequate hospital systems, there's quality schools, and there are those beautiful open spaces. And we need to make sure that we're keeping in character of the area. They're all the things that people love about Oatley. So it's a very fine balance.
Yeah, it's a delicate balancing act. Were there any other memorable achievements or even lessons learned during your time in local government?
Yeah, I guess it's the little things. It's when people ring you up and they say, Elaina, I've got this trailer that's been parked outside my home for 12 years. I've called this person, I've called that person, I've called council. Nothing's been done about it. And I said, look, leave it with me. And then a week later, they call me back and say, Elaina, the trailer has been moved. So it's the little things. And knowing that you are making an impact on people's well-being, because for us, a trailer parked outside, it can be something trivial, but it's impacting people's well-being. And knowing that you can make that difference in people's lives, it's really why you get into public service. Yeah.
Improving the local community step by step.
Yeah.
Okay, why don't we now look at some challenges, opportunities, and maybe dispel some myths.
Sure.
Buses. Starting from 21st of June, there are a series of bus changes happening in South and Southwestern Sydney, affecting especially suburbs like Hurstville, Oatley, Penshurst, Mottdale and Peakhurst. Now, on the one hand, you've got Transport for New South Wales saying these changes aim to improve service delivery and reliability. On the other hand, and I'm just relaying to you what I saw on social media and even some articles on the local paper. There appears to be a public outcry with, seniors being stranded, commuters facing longer journeys, and perhaps seniors are missing out on important social appointments and having to reschedule important medical appointments. Is that really what's been happening?
Yeah, look, I think we need to set the record straight with the buses again, and just to get the facts out there to community. So when Min's Labor government won the last state election, they actually inherited Yugo Mobility. So the Liberals had actually sold off Punchbowl Bus Company in late 2022, I think it was, and sold Region 10, which is the area that you just talked about, to this company called Yugo Mobility. So they went for the cheapest contract that there was on offer and prioritised price over reliability. So Punchbowl Bus Company had been serving the community for decades. They were reliable, they had enough buses, they had enough drivers. Yugo Mobility is an overseas company. They operate out of the UK. They have never ever run bus services in Sydney ever before. What happened after that, and I saw firsthand as a teacher, I do bus duty, is buses weren't turning up, students were stranded, having to call parents who live kilometres away who are at work, saying, the bus hasn't come, you need to come and pick up your child from school. So what the government had to do was introduce a transport task force where they had to investigate why Yugo Mobility have been so unreliable. So we're talking, the argument is that the bus service is unreliable now. Well, they're not as unreliable as what they have been.
Right.
So the task force has been set up. Yugo Mobility have been penalised. They have been issued fines through the government because of their lack of, competency and their ability to manage Region 10. So the bus changes that have come into place have been... There's about 1,500 extra bus services that are operating in the area now, and they are supposed to really improve reliability. So a couple of the bus routes have been tweaked to allow drivers to get to places quicker. There's obviously been some hiccups along the way. People have contacted me mainly over the 944 bus service, which services Peakhurst Heights. I only had a meeting last week with Transport for New South Wales. The changes are not set in concrete. They're very receptive with listening to community feedback. And, I'm just constantly pushing that information onto Transport for New South Wales, and there will be changes down the track. But we just need to see how this is going to play out for the community, and then tweak it along the way. So it's not set in concrete, but I do need to make it clear that this is what happens when our services in community are privatised. It just does not work.
Right.
So to have a a petition out by the local member now campaigning against Yugo mobility that government had put in place originally. It just doesn't pass a pub test.
Right. I actually didn't know about the history of this Region 10.
Yeah.
Now, again, setting the record straight there.
Yes.
And I guess at the end of the day, public transport is designed to serve the needs of the majority of the community. A bus route that is now tweaked and is closer to me inevitably means that it's further away from you. It's a public good after all.
Yeah, absolutely. And like I said, it's not set in concrete, and there will be changes that are made, based on feedback.
Okay, moving on. Hospital. Following the 400 million investment in St. George Hospital, the redevelopment has been completed, and the hospital is now a beacon in the local community. But if any audience out there has visited an emergency department in recent years, you will know that there is still room for improvement. How should we address that, and how should we provide better healthcare to our local community?
Yeah, sure. The hospital is amazing. I was lucky enough to go there a few weeks ago with the Health Minister and our Treasurer, and I went through a walk through the new rehab area and met a wonderful patient who's actually been in there for about 6 months. And he said this is like the Shangri-La of hospitals, and he spoke so highly of the nursing staff that have been there looking after him. Look, obviously the hospital system is strained, and it has been for a very, very long time. It's not just since the Minns Labor government has come in. But what we're seeing is we've got an ageing population. We've got a population who've got chronic health issues, and that does, cause backlog in emergency when people need that emergency care. What's really refreshing is that the Minns Labor government have made, groundbreaking announcements with nurse pay, biggest pay rise in 2 decades. There's a commitment to recruit new nurses and new doctors into our hospitals. So as that's introduced over time, with more doctors, recruiting nurses, encouraging people to join the nursing profession, we will see that those waiting times ease. It's going to take time, but there is work there in place, and the government is listening. The Minns Labor government really does listen.
That's one for healthcare is we're not going to get there like in one step.
You can't fix something that has been, so much pressure on a system for generations. It's not going to happen overnight. It's a work in progress, and there's definitely there's commitment there, and there's a value in our nurses and our doctors to ensure that they are happy, and that'll take ease of the system. Now, the more nurses we have to be able to provide services in a $400 million hospital with 12 trauma operating theatres, the better the services will be for the community, and our families deserve that.
Another systemic issue is social housing. How should we improve the social housing in the electorate, such as the Riverwood housing estate?
Yeah, okay. So I think it's really important to remember that social housing is there to support our most vulnerable. So it's there for families who are experiencing domestic violence. It's there, for people who are the most vulnerable, women who are fleeing really difficult situations. At the moment, we've got a wonderful development in Hardwick Street, Riverwood, which is going to house one of the largest demographic, statistical areas, which is women over 55 who find themselves in financial distress and homelessness. So that's happening in Riverwood. And I think it needs to be said that and reminded that the Minns Labor government has been the only government in New South Wales history to invest record amount of money into social housing. So that's going to continue. And I think, this is what Labor does well. Labor is all about being fair, being equitable, and being compassionate. And this is what this Minns Labor government is doing.
One thing also remarkable about the Riverwood local community and the social housing estate is that it really defies your traditional stereotypical view of social housing. It's a very well-connected community. You've got your shops, you've got your natural environment, and you've got important community organisations such as the Riverwood Community Centre.
Yeah. I was actually at Riverwood Community Centre last night and met Pauline and Minister Jihad was down there, Karsali, who does phenomenal work with that community. And I have to say, say, when we've been door knocking in Riverwood, the people have been just beautiful. For me, going to Riverwood, Narwee and Beverly Hills, it's like coming home. The people are just beautiful. Yeah.
Okay. Moving on, let's look at the member for Oatley, because that's whom you are competing against in the next state election. Now, the member for Oatley, Mark Clr MP, was elected to represent Oatley from 2011, and that's a good 15 years now. Some would say that the member has really embedded himself into the local community, and that he is rising with increasing portfolios and responsibilities. For example, the member comes from a small business background. Now, how would you better support small businesses?
Yeah, okay, interesting. He's come from a small business background, but he's been a politician for 16 years. So that's to be out of touch slightly, I guess, from the nuances of being in small business. Probably something that a lot of people don't know about me, but on the other hand, they do, is I come from a family of small business owners. So my father ran a very successful small business for 40 years.
Wow.
So I understand, I've lived through the ups and downs, a roller coaster ride of parents who have worked incredibly hard to try to stay relevant within small business. And Dad was able to do that. He was able to defy odds over 40 years of running a business, a very small business. So I think it's important to know again that the Minns Labor government does listen to the needs of small businesses, especially with workers' compensation. That was one of the big things that small businesses had taken to the Minns Labor government, and putting pressure on those premiums. So there's still work to be done within that realm, but it's important to know that I understand nuances of small business, because I've lived that's been my childhood and my adulthood. That's how I wouldn't be here if my father hadn't been running such a successful small business for over 40 years. And Labor's committed to working with small businesses. They're actually the foundations of the economy within our communities.
Oh, so you have first-hand experience. You understand the ups and downs and the blood, sweat and tears of small business owners.
The blood, sweat and tears, and what Dad was doing, had a small business where he sold electrical appliances. And as he entered into that age where it was, things would break down and people would replace them, he went into reconditioned and factory second. So that's how he stayed relevant in an industry that's was changing diversely with technology. So I've seen it all.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, the member is also, as you know, the Shadow Minister for Multiculturalism, and has been very active in multicultural communities and celebrations over the years. How would you better support our multicultural communities?
Yeah, okay. I think it's one thing to go to a multicultural event and shake hands. Again, it's lived experience. So I'm a product of migration. My father migrated to Australia from Italy in the 1950s. My husband comes from parents who are Greek, so my own children are also a product of multiculturalism.
Wow.
So again, it goes to that lived experience. And I think that knowing the challenges that our diverse cultural community face, because you've lived them yourself through your childhood and through your adulthood, it's pretty powerful to have those connections with people. In Georges River, the seat of Oatley is so culturally diverse, and I think now more than ever we need political representation where we unite people and we celebrate everything that is beautiful about being multicultural rather than causing division. And I will advocate for the multicultural community because it's who I am, it's what I am, it's my lived experience. Yeah.
Okay. Is there anything that the member is doing well and that you would recommend him on? I'll do that again. Is there anything that the member is doing well and that you would commend him on?
Yeah, look, I think it's anybody who enters a life of public service, and to do it for 16 years needs to be respected. And, Mark has done the best he can. Let's put politics aside, he's a decent person, his family is lovely. Our sons go to school together. They go to the same high school. Oh. In fact, I grew up with Mark. We went to school together as well. So, to dedicate most of your adult career or his entire adult career to public office needs to be respected. Yeah.
Okay, and I guess I've got a final question as we wrap up discussing the current member for Oatley. There are lots of voters out there who may not be diehard Labour or diehard Liberal. They're just sitting in the middle. They may or may not think the current member is doing a good job. But again, they accept that life is not perfect. They accept the status quo. And they may think that even changing a member may not bring them anything substantial. What do you say to these people?
Yeah, look, I think there's something very powerful in having a local member who's on the same page of government. So to have a local member who works very closely with the Premier and all the other ministers who hold majority of government, that's when community really flourishes. Rather than trying to advocate for community from opposition, you don't get things delivered for community. You get things delivered for community when you have power in government. And I think voting for a member who will have that ear and who are all on the same page is something that will really benefit community.
Looking ahead, what are your upcoming priorities?
Yeah, upcoming priorities, again, it's making sure that this Peakus West swimming pool is on time and being delivered, making sure that these state roads which are getting upgraded will actually meet budget and will be successful, which they will be. It's always those things, education, our healthcare systems, public transport. So they are the main priorities moving forward. Making sure Oatley remains the beautiful electorate that it is and keep that character that we all love about it. Yeah.
That's a lot of hard work ahead for you.
Absolutely, and I'm willing to work hard for that. It's my community. I've lived in it for 47 years. I've never ever lived outside the electorate of Oatley. Yeah.
Okay. As we wrap up, last but not least, as we speak, we are less than 8 months away from the next state election. Do you think you will win?
I'm going to work incredibly hard to win. So we're out there door knocking every weekend. I am working pretty much 2 full-time jobs here. So I'm rolling up my sleeves, I'm getting out there. My priority is connecting with as many voters as possible and forming those personal connections. It's what I do best because I'm not the career politician. I'm someone who's lived in community. I have served community. So it's just my priority at the moment is just making those connections, rolling up my sleeves, advocating, not just being a person who listens, but who's also a person of action. And I think I've proved that with my time on council. So that's what we're heading towards. Yeah.
On that note, Elaina Anzellotti, good to talk to you. And once again, my name is Jin Qian. Stay tuned to the next episode of Beyond Politics, and of course, stay tuned to Oz Arab Media.